And if you mute your microphone, we can talk in the green room in the background while this is up. Right now, it's going out over the feed. Well, hello. Hi, BJ. We're back. It's 2022, and we gotta get back at this. We've taken a little time off for the holidays and trying to get things set up and have some fun. So, how you been?
I'm good. I'm good. Things are here. It's when did we last broadcast in December? So that was before the Final Four, before
Right.
ABCA, which I went to, and for me it was a great time. Obviously, there just moved my screen so you can see my Wisconsin flag a little bit. So
Yeah.
it was fun to go and see them after being near the top of volleyball for some time, to see them finally break through after a string of great coaches from Steve Lowe, who you remember kind of got things started, and then Pete Waite, who I ran into at the after party for Wisconsin. That was it was neat to see him and talk with him a little bit. I don't know him well, but he's been such an advocate for that program after coaching. He was there, I think, 14 years or something like that. Took him to a final but didn't win, and then we had at Green Bay, we had the fortunate circumstance of playing Wisconsin this year, down at Ray Gooden's place at Northern Illinois. So it was cool to see them from an opponent standpoint, and then to go be a fan for a little bit. So that was the big thing that happened to me. Otherwise, volleyball's been pretty quiet.
Did
How
you?
about you? What's
I
going on
was
with you?
wondering if you sent a condolence note to Morgan when Pitt got eliminated. Was it Pitt? No, it was Purdue. Sorry, when Purdue got eliminated.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
not at all.
I sent a note to Dan, like,
Did you
said, oh,
really?
yeah. He said she took it well. I'm like, so great.
Yeah,
Um, but
yeah. She's a good kid. She probably has watched as much or more volleyball than anybody that I know. I think she's 13. She's a 13 or
yeah,
playing 14s, I think, this year. So, um, yeah, she's a good resource, believe it or not. If you want to know something about your team at age 14. But no, I didn't. I haven't talked with anybody really about it other than just real close friends. I talked to somebody that I hope can be a future guest for us, Kim Woody. She's the head coach at UW Eau Claire, and
hmm
she won a national championship this what? Well, she didn't, but her players won a national championship this year. So it was sort of surreal to be standing there in this room with, here's Kim, who I was talking to, and there's Pete, and then Chef and his crowd was all, kind of talking together, and then of course the players, and I actually had the most fun talking to the parents,
Oh yeah.
just asking them, and we could talk about that for a long time, but a lot of private conversations, but they're good people, and some of them were just ecstatic, and some were like, this is cool, but now we're looking for the next thing.
Yeah, I'd like to
It
get
was neat.
the big thing I did, but we talked about it I think already. It's I had that seminar we had here with John Kessel and Eric and Marwan and that was great. I got my 20-year-old going on 40 assistant coach to go with me, and he was very popular because he's a good player. So when all the drills we had to do, he set everybody. He was working hard, and I was just huffing and
That's
puffing
cool.
out there. They were kind of laughing at me. I'm like, hey, I got to tap out, so but
Yeah.
let's get our guest in here. But first, tell us a little bit about Tony before we get started.
I'm going to let him tell you about him. But for me, I I got to know him through, like a lot of coaches, through volleyball coaches and trainers. I liked his outlook. We started talking about some things, and we've had a couple of just uh, actual, not just typing conversations. We've talked a couple times via Facebook Live or something like that.
Hmm.
And I find him fun to talk to, and he's had some experiences that I haven't. Um, and he's a great sounding board for some of that kind of stuff. So let's get him on here and find out what he knows about volleyball.
Well, there he is.
Hey, Tony.
Hey, BJ. Hey, Steve.
So just to get us started, Tony, tell us. We ask almost everybody, how did you come into volleyball? Like, what was your entry into the sport, and what got you hooked?
I fell in love with volleyball in the '80s. I knew, I'm a Central Illinois kid. Grew up with the Michael Jordan Bulls, the Detroit Piston Bad Boys. But before I got the Chicago Bears, the Monsters of the Midway. So I liked all those sports, but volleyball was really my first love. So I knew Karch Karai, Steve Timmons, all those players before I knew Jordan and Pippen and everybody else, which didn't probably make me the most popular kid in school. And we didn't have a team. We didn't have a boys team. We had a girls team, and so I played with the adults at a really young age and played tournaments with them. And that was really my first, intro in. I remember I still have on VHS tape. I still have the '88 Olympics on tape, and I remember watching the men's team win the gold medal and thinking, wow, and watching Karen Kimner and Flo Hyman and all those players, those were my first names in sports. And immediately I recognized, you could do both. You could like mainstream sports, but still like something that you were really into that fits you. And I participated in other things. I did track in school and other things, but volleyball for me was my love. And my mom forbid me from. I wanted on my class high school ring to have a volleyball, and she wasn't having it. She was like, you're not playing on a team in high school." I was like, "Yeah, but I play men's tournaments. I travel and play." And she's like, "No, we're not doing that." And so I found a school, and this is probably the first time on air I've ever said this. I found a school that had a men's team, and I was determined to go there. It was the only state university because they had a men's team, and they also had good academics. And I loved the school, but I loved the fact there was a men's team there. So I played on the ISU men's team, which for me was thrilling because it wasn't tournament. It was organized. It was a schedule. I still have my jersey. It's hanging on the wall behind me. To me, I'd made it. I'd arrived. And when I got around that kind of talent, I was like, wow. But then the next step was, what are you going to do when this is over? Because I obviously wasn't going to be the next Karch or Steve or anybody. I was a 5'10" kid from Central Illinois who didn't have that much volleyball experience compared to some of the other people. And so I jumped in and got into coaching elementary school at a school around the university. Went to a rural school. That was somebody just picked me up and said, "Hey, we'd love to have you." It was a private school, and I found myself back in my hometown of Decatur, and still coaching and with a greater appreciation, and found a lot of kids like me who just weren't exposed maybe to the level some of metropolitan kids up in Chicago or St. Louis were. But they had a love for the sport too. So I've kind of taken all the things that I grew up with and tried to transfer that into what I'm doing now with coaching. So I'm currently the 8th grade coach at a middle school, the Dennis Monarchs. And if you'd asked me maybe even 5 years ago, I don't know if that would have been my plan to be a middle school coach. But it's actually reinvigorated me. It's given me a new audience of kids to teach the sport to and hand it down to. And it does come with challenges, and I think we'll get into that. But it's great when you get to start from the bottom with kids who are getting their first volleyball experience, like I was.
So your favorite Chicago Bull was probably Judd Bushler then.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I probably had a Judd. The fact that you get that reference, BJ, you were already up there. You're even higher now. Yeah, Judd Bushler was, and I think I got to see him in Chicago play in some tournaments when I go up and watch AVP stuff. And I never got close enough to tell him, hey, dude, I'm a big fan. I love you. I love what you do. Because that was just rare. That wasn't considered a two sport, athlete kind of thing back then. But it's
yeah.
having somebody.
Just for people that don't know, he played collegiate volleyball and was also a basketball player. So he played two sports in college at the Division I level, and then obviously was in the United States. If you want to stay at that time anyway, in the 80s, 90s, if you want to stay here, a very popular thing to do for those two sport athletes was to give basketball a shot, and he hit the lottery going to Chicago for sure.
Yeah.
I have a small Judd Bushler story. We were at men's nationals. This has got to be almost 5-6 years ago now. And I was watching a 50s court, and somebody sitting next to me taps me on the shoulder and says, hey, you know who that is? That's Judd Bushler. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember Judd Bushler, because they interviewed him on NBC one time and asked him, it was when AVP was on NBC, right? And they asked him, hey, could Jordan and Pippen go out on the AVP tour and just crush everyone? And he laughed and he said, no, I could beat those guys with a junior high partner. They're terrible. And he said, after a year, if we took them out, after a year of going to the beach every single day and playing like I did, they might be able to win a couple points.
I got a couple little stories around that. First of all, at our club, Taylor Pippen played, and when she was a 14, we played at a couple of different middle schools, and so they set up the Vertec at this school. And it was a 13s practice. We have maybe one or two 14s team, and Taylor was there, and the gym, it was a lot of kids, and it stopped, and she touched. I'm trying to think. She touched like 10-2 as a 14.
Wow.
I mean, she was, and just raw. Spencer over at Rolling Thunder wound up coaching her. I just got to watch her and do a little bit of training, but that's that. And then the other one, Bushler, you could every now and then see volleyball skills while he was playing if you were really looking for it. You'd watch a game and go, yeah, that's a volleyball move, man. So that was always fun. And then I actually met and have vague recollections of this because I was 5. But I met Wilt Chamberlain because we were at this will really date me. We were at a Syracuse Nationals game, which now are the Philadelphia 76ers in Syracuse because that's where I grew up. And Wilt was playing. And after the game, I don't know how my dad did it, but he got us up to say hello. And that's a pretty big guy for a 5-year-old to look at. So that was pretty much fun. So, and another great, fantastic volleyball player.
At men's nationals, when this guy pointed out Bushler, I said back to this guy, I'm like, yeah, you see that guy sitting next to him on the bench? That's Scotty Fortune. They're playing together. And the guy goes, who's that? I'm like, what?
Well, and Judd was a household name because he's playing with the Jordan and the Bulls. You know, I mean, so it is what it is. And I think Judd brought a lot of. I mean, he got a lot of focus to the sport, which I was excited about because then people were talking about it. And you know, I love the fact that he was a two sport athlete and a successful two sport athlete.
Yeah, he could still play at 50. There's no doubt about that. He was by far the best player in the team, still fit. Um, you know, probably not a care in the world, I imagine. But yeah, he was a good dude. So tell us, what you kind of talked a little bit about it. Where are some of the places where you've been coaching? Like, go through some of your levels of coach. You know, where you said that you had some high school, middle school, and your levels and locations. Like,
Yeah,
where have you been around?
you know, I was at Illinois State playing, and then when it was obviously nowhere was going to pick me up for you know, an international team or the Olympics were not in my future, which they never were. I mean, that was a nice high school dream, but that didn't happen. I kind of fell into coaching. I actually had a really bad ankle injury one season and was completely sidelined. And I saw an ad where they were looking for an elementary school coach, and I went in, and these were fifth and sixth graders, and I went in just like my coach, just just intense, and it was like let's go. You know, I thought I was Russ Rose coaching these kids, and I found out real quickly like they're fifth and sixth graders, and the parents thought it was great. The other schools thought we were nuts. They who's that crazy wild man, you know? And but the kids had fun, and I learned to tone it down and make it more about the experience, the win losses. You couldn't tell me what our record was that year, how many. I'm sure I've got it in a file someplace because I'm just retentive like that. But the one thing I still have is I have a signed volleyball from the kids, and that was my first coaching gift where somebody had given me something as a player or anything. And so that was a Parks and Rec program. Another school picked me up. That was U High, where Ogana Nemani actually was a freshman,
Oh,
and I got to meet her. And I started out as a camp, and I went to the camp and met the kids, and was just kind of scrimmaging. And Ogana was a freshman back then, but still jumping out of the gym. And so it was kind of like I'm playing on a girls' net, so I'm hitting at them. I'm in my 20s, so of course I'm showing off. I'm just doing ridiculous stuff, and I'm watching this kid play. Go, man, she's really special. And I got a message from Charlene, who was the coach, who said, "Hey, I don't have I know you want to get into coaching. We're gonna do a 1 year deal, and I'm gonna get this on your resume so you'll be a coach, and we'll give you the JV team because they already had a bunch of coaches. They definitely didn't need me." And Char said, "We're going to make you the JV coach." And it was basically kind of our varsity is going to make a deep run, and they're going to be really good. So we need you to keep building the program up. But she was, after you leave, you'll have this on your resume that you were a high school coach, and then you can apply other places. So it was understood from day one that was going to be a 1 year deal, but it was a great experience. Their varsity did go to state that year, made a lot of friends with different coaches and players. And U High was, for the next couple years, was a powerhouse. They actually went to state back to back after I left, but they went to state that year too. They won state the next 2 years, and so still consider Ogana and her family, good friends. But I always have to tell people I never got to coach her. She was varsity from day one. There was no, I can't say I was one of her coaches, but her parents are great. I mean, Angie is great. Great career, obviously at Stanford and on to the Olympics. Then I had to coach against her at another school that was in the same conference, and unfortunately, they stopped us every year in the postseason from getting to state. So it was mixed feelings because you were proud of the kids that were there. That was Olympia over in Stanford, a little farm school, but they were in the same conference and they were just a powerhouse. And so after that, I coached up in Street. I got my first varsity job offer in Streeter, Illinois, and coached there for a couple seasons. Made my way back towards my hometown here in Decatur. Coached with Deb Kick, who's still the head coach at Milliken, and asked her for an opportunity to come and coach at the collegiate level. And so I was the assistant coach with her for 3 seasons. And at that point, I was really trying to decide, okay, what's my next coaching move? And I was in Decatur, which was kind of a a 180 from being in Bloomington, because there was so much volleyball around Bloomington Normal. With you've got Kim Brown's program at Wesleyan, you've got Illinois State, which is Missouri Valley Conference, always in the postseason back then, and so many strong high school programs. And you come back home and you don't have that going, and there were some challenges there, and it's a different economic situation. So some of the programs I took over were programs where the kids were excited about it, but they just didn't have the same background. There wasn't the same club level. It wasn't a desert, but it was an oasis like it was in Bloomington, and I learned a lot, and I learned lessons some the hard way, that this takes a different approach, and there's different priorities for these kids. And where I'm at now is at Dennis Middle School, which hasn't been a junior high for that long. It's only been a junior high program for about, I think, 8 years now. They've had a K through 8. Originally, it was a K through 6. And when I was approached, that was by somebody I coached against in high school. I was kind of like, no, I'm not a junior high coach anymore. I'm a high school coach. I'm a former college assistant coach. I was feeling a little chippy, and I she talked me into coming in and interviewing, and I knew Brittany really well. Brittany was kind of setting me up. I tease her still. She was a teacher there, and she said, these kids need what you bring to your program. And I guess I kind of had a reputation for, we didn't take a backseat to anybody in terms of the effort we put in the program. We tried to give the girls the resources they needed to get them excited about the sport. We taught skills, but we also built a culture and a program that we don't second guess ourselves, and we don't take a back seat. Everybody we play, we consider competition, and we're not defeated before we walk in the gym. And in inner city schools, I think that's really important. And I think coming into this role, the one thing I learned is you still have to teach skills, but you have to eliminate some of the barriers as well. And that's what I've been working on for the past 4 years, is getting a program that kids are excited to play in and are learning, and hopefully sending them on to like it as much as I do. They call me, I'm the extra coach, is what everybody tells me. Tony, you're so extra, and I take that as a compliment. We do a lot of things that I borrowed from the Debbie Kicks, the Charlanans, the Kelly McCavitts, the Kim Browns, just things they did in their programs that I put into a junior high program, and I'm very proud of that. I think imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
I love the fact that just that philosophy of, we're gonna go play anybody, and we're not taking the back seat. I just saw today, Ray Lewis, who's over at Central State University, that his team played Ohio State on the men's side, and they they're a first year program. They hung in there pretty well. Scored 16, 20, and 20.
It's awesome.
Um, they're being supported some on the men's side by one of the organizations there that has given a big endowment to that whole conference, and it's the same attitude. We're gonna play you if you're brave enough to walk in the gym. We'll we'll give you our best, right?
Absolutely. As a new program, I mean, the schedule wasn't big. I think I had 13 games my first season. Um, I told the athletic director, we're gonna have to add some tournaments, and the kids had never traveled to a tournament before, so that was a new thing for them. That was a new adventure to go in. And the second thing for me was, everybody's got to have equipment, and that was challenging for some families. Our community is about 26% Alice families, which is asset limited, income constrained, but employed. So those are families that are either at or below the poverty level. Um, so for a kid who just wants to play a sport, they're dealing with other things. And so in our community, my county's 105,000. I live in the biggest city in the county. There's over 70,000 people. Some of those families are going to be in programs all across the board. So we know there's a lot of kids in our community who, were my first coaching position. I could just give a list of, these are the shoes you need, these are the knee pads, this is the equipment. That wasn't the case in at Dennis. And so to take that barrier away, because I did have kids who, I remember chasing tall kids down the hallway going, hey, have you ever played volleyball before? And some of the kids said, hey, I can't. I like this. I like it. It's okay, I guess. But my family says we can't afford to play. And I immediately I was touched by that. I'm like, we have to remove that barrier because we can miss out on some really good athletes if it was just about can you afford the equipment. And so immediately my first year was, again, borrowing some of that from other coaches. I just sent it out to my friends and said, hey, I have girls who don't have shoes separate for volleyball. Can you find out if anybody's got any gently used shoes they can wear? Because I had kids who had boots. I had kids who had Crocs. And it's not really a Dickinson. I don't want to portray it that way. It's not like a Dickens story where everybody's got rags wrapped around their feet, because some of the families had great jobs, and some of those families actually helped me support some of the other kids. But there were some kids who were income challenged, and their families were, and to get them to play in equipment. And I didn't want anybody to ruin their clothes either, because they had nice clothes to wear to school. I didn't want those to be their practice clothes. So we got into practice shirts, and that's actually the first time I was kind of excited because we'd never had practice shirts before. So to get them paid for, I went to local businesses and said, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get the girls excited. I want them to have proper athletic apparel. If you can donate to that, and I didn't put an amount on it, we'll put your logo on a practice T-shirt. Each girl will get 2 T-shirts. They're going to get practice spandex because I had great friends who donated a lot of equipment to me, and they're going to get to wear that. I said, and we'll put your business name on our awards. We do a big postseason banquet at the end. And so my first year, I got my shirts paid for. I got a lot of equipment. I was able to take some money and buy kids shoes at that point who didn't have just volleyball shoes. And the kids were excited. The businesses were happy. The second year, I got a little more inventive and actually had a national company, which was a sports company, that said, hey, we can help out. And they donated 11 pairs of shoes to the program. And the kids just had to go over and get their shoe size measured. And at the time, I remember I had to have a parent take them because I was still working my day job. And I said, can you take them over there? And just, I wasn't really sure what this entailed. They didn't lead with, we're going to give you the shoes. They just said, send them over to us. And I said, well, these kids don't have any money. And they said, send them to us and we'll figure it out. And I said, okay, what does figure it out mean? And so the parent went with them, and she's sending me texts like play by play. And she said, so what do I do if they take them to the register? And I said, if they take them to the register, just ask him to put them to the side, and I'll call him later and just proceed as planned. So she drove them over. She sent me a picture. They're getting their feet measured. They're eating gelato because this place has an actual restaurant in it where they can have food and snacks. So the girls were all excited because they're eating gelato ice cream, and they're getting, and we sent about 11 kids. And to be honest, I probably needed to send about 15. I had some kids who couldn't make the trip. And the next update was, okay, we've got the shoes. We're headed up front. And I said, okay, here's the moment of truth. And what happened was, the next was a picture of all the kids with bags and with the manager of the store. And that was the end of the story. And I'm like, okay, great. He got him shoes. The next day I walked into practice, and all the kids were wearing Nike Hyper Ace volleyball shoes from that year, which retail for $115. I was expecting running shoes. I was expecting maybe some shoes that had been turned in, because something was wrong, or anything else. But these were brand new shoes that college programs wear. They're high end shoes. They were great. And the kids were just thrilled, and you could see the confidence just went through the roof because they felt like they were being sponsored by a sports apparel company. So now you're like, hey, look, we get free shoes in our program, and
we got a shoe deal.
Yeah, exactly. We're sponsored by Nike. Like, we're not sponsored by Nike. But for them, that was huge because it also means somebody that's not related to you is looking out for you. And I think they all realized what that meant. That somebody else who didn't have to do this was getting them apparel and giving them the ability to play and not worry about that. And so again, went back to the same businesses, and we got the practice T-shirts, and more friends donated spandex, and some donated shoes that their daughter may have played and decided, I don't like the sport, so she turned hers in. And we started passing those to other programs. and other kids in school who may not be playing a sport but just needed something for gym class. And it's really, I'd like to think it's grown me as a coach. It's made me appreciate not just the wins and the losses, but also the impact we have on these kids, and what we do matters in those 2 hours we get them every day. Because it's obviously not easy to get everybody to donate apparel and equipment. And this year was challenging because of, supply chain issues. Obviously, economically, things are rough for a lot of families, so the needs increased. And this year I was really fortunate. I was blown away because I had to get creative. I still had the same issues. Last year we had a kind of a stunted season where it was 3 weeks, so we didn't get into the shoes as much. They were only playing kind of an intramural season. It was a very unorthodox season, but they got to play. And this year we got a full season again for the first time in 2 years. So I'm like back to square one. Like, what do I do for equipment? I've got this whole new group of girls. How do I get them ready? And I came up with the wish list idea and put an Amazon wish list out there. And the response was, I didn't even realize how popular it got until somebody messaged me and said, "Hey, I tried to buy something for your program, but your wish list is empty. So you need to put some more stuff out there. Surely you need more." And of course I did. I was just kind of I was trying to be modest and not overwhelm people. Um, but I went back and revisited with the kids. Okay, what size shoe do you need? You told me you had shoes, but you haven't got your shoes yet. Just tell me what shoe size you need. We're going to fix this. So I updated my wish list, and I still have packages coming in. I've got some more coming in tomorrow. But so far, I've gotten about 7 pairs of shoes. I think I counted 6 pairs of knee pads. Um, Diane and Tim Vanderschaft from Eastside Volleyball Club have, they've got a great volleyball store, so they probably have a warehouse full of, sample products. Diane sent me a box of, Nike spandex and knee pads. And so, I mean, I feel really blessed that people care enough about my kids and kids in general to get them in the sport that they can do these kind of things. And it really, as a coach, we have to understand that sometimes kids aren't goofing around in practice because they don't care about the sport. They're not missing practice because they don't care about it. Sometimes there's just some barriers that we don't know about, that we don't live ourselves. Um, and when we address those things, then they can just come and concentrate on having fun for 2 hours and getting better at the sport. And that just makes the team a lot more cohesive. And they take it as, there's a lot of unity. The kids who have shoes and the kids who need shoes and need some help. I mean, it's a close knit team. We always send thank yous. We talk about, we have to be respectful of the community. And the way we can be respectful is by letting them know how our season's going and how much it meant to us. So when we have our end of year banquet, we invite these businesses, we invite these individuals to come and celebrate with us the end of the season and see what these kids are about. So it's always exciting to me. The behind the scenes stuff, it's labor intensive, but fortunately there's a lot of buy-in, and it's I've already said it once, but I really believe it's made me more aware of how fortunate we are to coach and the impact we get to have on the kids that we do come in contact with.
I really love that you've talked about all the out of sport things, which is something I'm not particularly good at and I'm still working on. So one of the things I learned from Mike was you're always learning. Mike never stopped learning when he was running adversity, and so it's, in fact, we have a drill we call Mike's drill, and I showed the guy, got my phone out and said, "This is Mike. This is a guy who shouldn't have been there in theory, but was in fact, when I went to Impact training back when they did it live and all, the first thing he said is the injury, the diabetes, and it was the best thing that ever, the amputations were the best thing that ever happened to me, because I would have never been able to do and get to know the people I've gotten to know, because I would have just been another coach." And kind of an interesting perspective, but that kind of thing. But I'm curious, if you have a new coach, let's put ourselves in the place of you're a mom or a dad who has maybe played the sport a little bit, and is saying, "Hey, I want to do my first practices, and my kid's 5th grade team asked me to coach." What would you tell them about how to start practices in addition to the culture stuff, because the culture stuff's huge. That's big for me. But I know one of the things we tried to do when we started this was to give brand new coaches a perspective on how to get started, because most of the time you say, hey, I need like, can you give me like 10 to 15 drills that I can run with the kids, and to help them learn the game fast because they're new. Well, how do you do that?
Coming into to go from a Division 3 college coaching position and then be a varsity coach after that, and then get asked to come do junior high, which I had done camps. I hadn't done junior high coaching in it was close to 15, 20 years. The first thing you have to do is watch and see where your kids are at and see where their experience level is. And you have to make it fun, because if you go in like I did and just go in for that elementary job and just be all intense and it's all about the wins, you got to get the ball over the net, you got to do that, you lose kids like that. There has to be a fun aspect to it. There has to be a buy-in, and kids have so many options, including, honestly, to not participate in activities and stay home and chat with their friends on electronics. So we have to make it an experience that, yeah, they're going to learn something, but they also have to buy in that this is worth their time, because there's a lot of opportunities for them to do, including other sports. So I would tell myself from 20 years ago, I'd say, let's not go so heavy on the drills that you learned from U High. Let's let them play first and have some fun and see where they are and develop that way, because I can go in with a set of drills that I've been doing for, since I got into varsity coaching, even some stuff I borrowed from Milliken. But they may not be at that skill level. They may not be ready for that, and it may not be fun for them. Nobody. We used to practice run throughs at U High, and I used to. I mean, and as coaches, we always think, oh yeah, you got to do your run through, work on your J stroke. You got to do this. You do that to some little kids, and they're like, man, this is hard, and it's not fun. And so we get into a lot of the attacking. I get tennis balls out. We do fundamentals. We work on technique, but we get a ball in play really quickly, because ultimately they just want to play, and they don't have the patience or the attention span that some of our older kids have. And our new players definitely don't have that, because they don't have any experience. So they don't have a buy-in that if they do this now, it's going to get so much better because of all the skills they're going to develop to get to that next level. And so it really comes down to watching and seeing where they are, and making it fun, and incorporating not just the passing. And I know some coaches who think, man, you got to be able to pass first before you can do anything. That's still true. But if you just focus on passing, they're going to lose interest, because all your kids, no matter how many reps they get in, are not going to be back row players. So you've lost that segment immediately, because that 6'3" girl who hasn't played before and maybe can't even hit yet, it's going to be a lot easier to teach her to get up and smack a ball or block a ball than it is to teach her to unfold and get down and get her shoulders over her knees and pass and play back row. That'll come too. And I would never limit a player and tell them, you're only going to play this, because all my kids know at any given time, you may play back row, front row, all the way around. I need you to be ready, but you've got to make it fun. You got to give them something to buy in to get them into the sport, because it is a great sport, but it's such a difficult sport to master. It's not like your friends don't go out, at least down where I'm at. We don't go out with a ball and say, "Hey, let's go in the backyard and let's pepper a little bit." Most kids are like, "Hey, let's go out to the hoop, let's throw the football around." We have to get our athletes invested in our game, to build it up to the highest levels, and that involves making it fun, and keeping the fun in volleyball means doing some of the unorthodox stuff and saying, you know what, we've been working on passing for so long. Let's take it to the next level. Who wants to try to do a spike approach? That's fun. I've never had a kid say, "Man, I want to try that." They love that. Even at my age group, we do a lot with what's your vertical. Let's measure your vertical and see where you are. And it becomes competitive. At first, they're kind of apprehensive about it, but we measure it, and then you got that freak athlete who jumps out of the gym, and everyone's like, "Whoa, how did she do that?" I want to try it again. Let me try it again. So we have a lot of things where we're just building that culture to make it competitive, to make everybody realize there's growth, and that you can
Yeah.
still be a better player. And I tell them, at my age, I'm still learning as I transition away from being able to jump out of the gym. Actually, I transitioned out of that a long time ago. Those fast twitch muscles faded a little bit. But to be more of an all around player, and to work on things that I may not have worried about even when I was playing in college, because that wasn't my role. But as a rec player now, and as a, as a 5'10" rec player, and probably shrinking due to age, I've had to kind of adjust my skill set and do some things that I didn't worry about at an early age, and my coaches never put me in that role because that wasn't going to be part of my game. But to make an all around player, and also realize that our younger players, as they leave us, are going to be maybe playing another position for another coach. It's going to make it much easier for them if they learn all around skills rather than just say, well, I'm a front row player only.
Right.
Because your front row player only may end up being your libero, your right side, your defensive specialist, or your setter. So for us, the goal is always get your drills that are skill based, but also get a drill that everybody can work on and see some improvement, and really try to give kids a sense of accomplishment. And I don't think you can de-emphasize praising kids works wonders. I learned that at this level more than any other level. The more you give kids praise, they eat it up because they feel like, okay, my coach noticed that I'm working really hard and I finally got there. I got to that threshold. And we do that in the gym every day. We're constantly trying to reinforce that, yeah, this is hard. I tell the girls, if it was easy, the boys basketball team would be out here doing it. And they love that. They think that's just a great
Oh,
saying.
yeah. I had they allowed us to put together they have a 30-minute period each day for kind of academic improvement kind of things, but they decided last semester, and they've since killed it, but for good reasons. So they allowed me to have 30 minutes in the gym, and kids could sign up for it, and it became, and people like going to the gym, so I had like one day I had 54 kids in the gym trying to, on setting up 3 nets for 30 minutes and then taking them down is a challenge all by itself. But we had a couple basketball players drop in, and this one center for the basketball team comes in and goes, "Oh man, I could kill this." I'm like, "Hey, hang on, my setter's in here. I'll run you." And toss him ball. I said, "Just go up and attack this ball as he sets it in the air for you." Okay, boom, boom. Swing and a miss, just, and I said, "Hey, listen, the first time you ever went for an alley-oop, I'm sure it wasn't perfect. So, come out and try it." And the basketball players have all been kind of like, no, that's not cool. It's all on the boys' side. But I'm like, yeah, we'll get you eventually. And we just got to be persistent. But, I get the situation. I was running an open gym Friday, and, I had one of the girls, I let the girls come in because they don't have a place to practice right now. They don't have a coach or a setup. So if they want to come in an open gym and get a few touches, I said, you just got to play on an 8-foot net. So, and they're kind of, okay. So one of them came in and brought a friend of hers and said, oh, he's played before, blah, blah, blah. And he needs some work, let's say. And he's a senior. So if I take him, I got one less varsity spot. But at this point, it's like, hey, come out, learn the game. I'm going to try to keep you if I can. We're not in season yet anyway. So just come out to open gym and try to get better. And it was kind of goofy footed serving. So we worked on that a little bit, and, all the stuff you see. And then occasionally you get a kid. I had 2 kids walk in that I hadn't expected. One of them's about 6 foot-ish and good athlete. And all of a sudden I'm like, hey, this kid can play. Yay, one more, so it's interesting. But I love the fact that you're working with young kids, and the community stuff I'm going to steal. So I'm going to be, thanks for sharing that.
It's free. It's all yours.
There you go. How do you work with, as they're getting started? A lot of coaches talk about serving. And so let's say we got a brand new coach that's like, I want to play, but I'm trying to teach him how to serve. What's your progression of teaching him how to serve?
I started out, I'm in season 4 with my junior high team, and I remember telling my kids that first group, we don't underhand serve in this program. Cost me a lot of points, probably cost me a few wins. Because I was so married to that idea that, we need to teach them. I've got to get them ready for their high school, send them out of here. I've softened in my approach on that. This year we're working on letting kids learn at the pace they are ready for. So we overhand serve, we practice it, but in games, because we don't want to set them up for failure, if they're not getting the ball over the net, overhand serve wise, if it's going 5 feet and hitting at the 10-foot line and rolling under the net, they're not they're not going to get it in a game situation. And why set a kid up for that and make them feel like I just let my team down? So we are letting them underhand serve, but we still practice both, and we show them that eventually it's going to be there, and we just need you to be patient. But we're okay being, we can be patient with you and let you learn this. And we work on a lot of snapping, and we show them it's not about upper body, because it's hard for me to model something, and I stay away from that, especially as a guy, because of course they're looking at me like, oh, you've been playing this long, and you can do this. Of course it's easy for you. And I've served from my knees and showed them that it's not really about standing up and how tall I am. It's all about that whip motion, but really being patient with it and making it an exciting part. And even at this young age, one of the things, and some people are like, man, you're crazy for letting them do this. But some of the kids, they just got more momentum doing it when they were jump serving. So we let them try it. And we have some drills where you do a progression where it's 5 in a row, 4 in a row, 3 in a row, 2 in a row, and that last one has to be a jump serve. And they have a blast doing it, because and there's some ugly mechanics that go into it, because some of them have not they're just not ready to do that either. But it gives them a sense of accomplishment how close it gets. It's like they just try it, and some of the kids have gotten good enough to it at this level where I've had kids who exclusively jump serve. And that's not with a lot of these aren't club kids yet. Some of them have been, but they're not married to that yet. And so for them to do that is, I have coaches looking at me like, what are you doing in that gym? And I'm like, no, this is driven by them. This is their level. And that's something that I think with serving, it's how we start the game. We talk about how important it is. It's always part of our practice plan. We do it under pressure. We do it for consistency. We do it for, we serve with a purpose. It's not just getting it over. We're always aiming for a spot. We're doing a routine, and we try to work on the psychological aspects of it. But at the young age group, it can be so erratic. And I've had coaches tell me, well, if you got a tough server, you can rule the universe. Well, you can. Eventually, it's going to get, it's going to catch up to you, because all you can do is serve. Somebody's going to come along who can pass that. Now you got to be able to play. So it is an important part, but it's not the only focus. And everybody has to try to serve. We don't have anybody who's exempt from that. And I have kids who are in 8th grade who are just playing for the first time and really struggling with it now. And we always tell them eventually it's going to get there. And it's all up here.
Yeah.
It's not below here. You think it's below the neck. It's really here. It's the toss. And we work on nothing but tosses, or we'll work on just a whip-like motion. And it may just be taking a towel and whipping it against the wall. And the kid's like, this is silly. And then we show them the faster you can swing that arm, the further the ball is going to go. And then you see the light bulb moment go on, which is one of the great things. I mean, I think we can all agree that's the best part of coaching. When you see it click, and they're like, they see it.
That's how you do it. Yeah.
And they do it. So,
So BJ, I got a question for you. What am I going to suggest to Tony right now?
I know exactly what you're going to suggest to him. But I'm going to ask him if he uses it. You ever use torque serve at all, a sideways serve?
I have not yet. I have not. I've been curious.
Steve, is that what you were thinking?
Oh, you bet. I guarantee you, Tony. I had a team, a real quick story. I had a team where I had kids that I'm coaching 13s. I'm coaching with Mike. Mike said, will you come and coach 13, 14s with me? So I got this master coach, international coach who's like, I want to coach, I want you and me to coach young kids. I'm like, okay. So gives me a 13s team. And I got this little tiny girl. I mean, she's just getting frustrated. So I started off torque serving. And I didn't have her toss torque serve, which is what you'll see if you see Kessel demo it and that kind of thing. I had her doing it kind of more or less off her hand or off a drop, but same idea. And she's torque serving from 15 feet to start, and she couldn't get it over. But another week, she's getting it over. 2-3 weeks, third weekend, she's getting it over from behind the serving line. And I got another girl like that. So we go to a tournament, and one of my dads comes up and says, hey, these two guys were sitting there, two dads from the opposing team were sitting there. He goes, and what were they saying? He said, well, they said, what the hell kind of serve is that? And I said, I don't know, but it's going to be in. And, and it turns out that after that summer, the kid had gone to a little bit of camp over the summer, got a little bit bigger, but really not much bigger. But she came out, she had a dart for an overhand serve because it sets it up. It transfers much better. Underhand doesn't transfer at all, whereas the torque serve really does. So I would highly recommend trying that. They're gonna, I think they'll love it. And you'll get one or two. You'll get one or two who have killer ones. And I'm old enough. That's what I use in practice because I'll wear my shoulder out. I've got my orthopedic guy on speed dial. So, it's I like you. I'm down to 3-inch vertical. You're a vert rep, right?
Yeah, I'm a vert rep. Yes.
I can't set the vert off. I don't know.
We start using a gum wrapper for that. If the gum wrapper, we can slide it under. Then we'll give you a thumbs up. Good job. Probably try pickleball. No, I love that. And Steve, I think you speak to there's some things if we have to step outside our comfort zone as coaches and always be open to something new. And my hesitation, I mean, I've heard a torque serve. It's not in my repertoire, but it's going to be now because you've suggested it, and that's how we learn. That's how we get better. And I love that because you have to. Sometimes you have to dig in and research and get on YouTube and say, okay, how do I teach this? Because sometimes my arsenal, like, I'm out. Like the quiver's empty. I don't have any more drills that are going to make this better. So I think that's one thing as coaches we're always learning. And that's what I love about this game is there's always a new perspective and there's a new way to show kids how to do this and get them excited. So now I'm pumped to go try that. Like that's that light bulb moment for me where I'm like, okay, we're not doing an overhand serving exclusive this year. Let's teach them something new. Let's go into this.
I'll give you one more that I just learned from Kessel. He was out here in December, and he's if you do pepper, and he encourages 3-person and other kinds of pepper that aren't back and forth because we don't normally pass the ball right back. But he said if you're going to do pepper, put it in the dig to yourself, pass to yourself, then hit. And the dig to yourself part is something that I'm embracing with the boys because, our serve receive and our passing is all over the place. I mean, most of the time the ball is still going backwards. And it's, as he said, the pass to yourself at least gets the ball up and over you on a consistent basis. And so if they are doing pepper, that is helpful. And then you're developing their overhand skills. And it gets ugly. It's ugly when it starts. But if they're warming up, I usually want them to warm up over the net and do speedball, something like that. But if they're not, that's what I'm trying to enforce this year that we haven't done before because I'm sitting there going, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and I remember, as coming right out of college coaching, printing off like pages. I had a binder that was probably one of those big 2.5-inch binders of drills, and I had dividers of passing and serving, and it would just it's like that binder got trashed a long time ago. And listening to John talk about you have your favorite drills that you use, and you can always reference that old stuff, but trying to go through and use that entire library is not necessarily going to make your team better. And so you got your favorites and you can learn more and those pages change. It becomes very fluid. So instead of having this solid book of drills, now I have this Rolodex. It's called my laptop. Where I can say, hey, how do I do this? And that's what's changed for me as I've transitioned into an older coach. A lot less bluster, more gray hair, less vertical, obviously, less belligerent, I think, with referees. I think I had a reputation where I modeled what I learned as a coach. My coach was very intense, and my intensity hasn't changed, but my demeanor, I think, has. I'm also with a younger group, so I think I have to show them that we have to be respectful. We have to act like we've been here before, and we have to model the behavior that we want to receive to ourselves. And we still go to a lot of rural communities where my kids are diverse. I have white kids, I have black kids that play on the team that have been going to school, have been friends forever. We go to schools where we're very much the minority, and they're not used to us because we're from this big for us, big city of Decatur. and they're a small farming community. So I always tell the kids, we have to. The thing we share in common is this love of this sport, and we get to come and play different places. And so we have to act like we've been here before, but we also have to show them the behavior that we want to model, and we have to go in without preconceived notions of them, just like we don't want them to have any preconceived notions of us, because we're just here to play. It's not a we're not redoing the Civil War here. We're here just to play volleyball, and hopefully the best team's going to win. So we try to go in respectful. We try to do it. We try to do it better. We made great friends. I love to watch the girls exchange numbers when they see each other at camps and things like that, because we are really trying to build the program up. And with 8 years, I mean, we still have a lot to do. I hope I still look back on this with the same enthusiasm, because I'm always excited for these kids, and I feel so grateful that I got this opportunity to be one of their coaches. I hope they tell stories about this guy who used to wear the "You don't scare me, I coach girls volleyball" t-shirts to practice and things like that, and brought them cookies. I mean, I'm a softie. They know it. They figured it out. I'm not anywhere near as hardcore as I try to pretend to be when I go in. I'm buying donuts for practice. I'm ordering pizzas for road trips on the way home. I mean, it's all an act. I hope none of them are watching this. I don't want them to know it. I think they figured it out already. But we have a unique responsibility with young ladies, and I'm a dad too. I have a teenager, and so I got it from both ends, and it's actually made me appreciate her sports a lot more. And she shared me for all her life. She shared me as a coach. She's only known me as a volleyball coach to other kids. So when she got into sports, I got to just be the parent and really just appreciate that aspect of it. And I think that's important, because our perspective has to be that this is somebody's daughter or son. And while we all have crazy parent stories, and I'm sure you guys have that, um, this is somebody's kid that they're trying to protect, just like we protect ours. And we have a chance to be their shining star moment in their. We can be the starring role in their story, or we can be the villain really easily in their story. And I prefer to be the hero. I prefer the kids who come back, and I'm really excited, because I'm starting to see my alumni players who come in, and we have community service hours in our school district where the kids have to do so many service hours. I have to tell the kids, I can't have all of you come back to come and help me to get service hours, because then there'll be more kids coming to help than there are kids in the program. I need you to take shifts and do that. And these kids come during Christmas break. They come on weekends. I'll see some kids tonight. We're having an open gym tonight, and I'll see some of those kids that'll just come in to be part of it, because they love the program, and it's fun to watch them, tell the kids, when I had Coach T, we had to run twice as many laps to get warmed up as you did, stuff like that. And I'm like, that's not true. I was still bringing you guys donuts and doing everything for you. But that makes me feel good too, that they still want to be a part of it. That they reach out to me and say, hey, are you having practice? Can we sign in and come and help? And for them, helping is sometimes just keeping stats during games or shagging balls for me. And that makes me feel incredibly good, that they still, even though they're high school players now themselves, that they still want to be part of it. I have one girl who her career ended her eighth grade year with me. She was done with volleyball. It was during COVID and things didn't work out. She ended up not playing, and she hasn't played for 2 years. She still comes to anything and lets me know her work schedule so she can still be part of it. So I feel like hopefully I'm doing something right, that they would invest their time with my kids to get that next generation ready to be where they are. And it's cute to see them tell her, you got to listen to Coach T. Coach T is talking. Don't talk when Coach T is talking. And I'm like, you guys are tougher than I am. But that makes me feel like I have a great legacy, and I'm fortunate to have a daughter and family that support me in this, that let me be a coach, and a wonderful job that lets me, help our community. And I'm fortunate to coach these kids. It's really something I'm always looking at. I wonder what they'll say about me when I'm not coaching anymore. What will those kids do, and how will they describe me as their introduction to volleyball?
Well, I got I've got a challenge and a opportunity for you.
Okay.
When you go to learn your torque serve, go stand on the far right uh, sideline. Okay, over in one, and
Okay.
do your first couple of torque serves that you ever do left-handed.
Okay.
Here's the challenge is, it's hard.
Hmm.
The opportunity is you get to let the players and do them in front of the players. I ask our college players to do this all the time at camp. The opportunity is you get to feel what those middle school players feel like the first time that they're doing something new. So you'll get that feeling again, like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this. Your hands are going to get a little sweaty. You're going to get nervous. Maybe you make your first one, maybe you miss. And the reason to stick you way over on that side and do it left-handed is they can all line up on the rest of the end line. Most of them are probably righties. You might have a lefty or two, but you stick the lefties behind you, and the righties can all be in front of you. They can mirror what you're doing, so
Okay.
they can be holding a ball, and you can demonstrate left-handed while they work on right-handed as your mirror, and it'll be cool for you. It'll be cool for them.
Awesome. Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. We're doing that.
All right,
We're doing that at Open Gym tonight.
awesome. I want to
Fun.
hear how that goes. You guys send me a note.
There won't be video. I'm not gonna let them record it, BJ. It's not gonna go viral. We're not gonna do a viral video of grizzled volleyball coach attempts serve. That would be all over the internet.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Phones will be confiscated.
No,
All cameras and things will be left outside.
it's a super valuable experience. I've done it probably for 10 years with new coaches. I show them this serve, and I show them me doing it right-handed, and then I tell them, okay, all you coaches go out there. Oh, but you're gonna be like middle school players and learn this left-handed, and you can just see their faces drop and their shoulders slouch, and they, because they don't want to look foolish. Like, well, this is what your kids are going through, so let's learn and remember that, and
That's awesome.
it's super valuable. You'll love it.
It is. I love picking up stuff. I keep telling you this. This is I'm gonna offer my own challenge. Eventually, I'm gonna make it to the convention. I know every year we talk about it. Eventually, I'm gonna make it to the convention and get to meet everybody face to face and hang out with all these people who not just I follow through the volleyball coaches and trainers forum, but also the people who have donated things to my program and get to meet everybody in person and be part of that culture, because this has been a more exciting journey than anything I imagined with playing. Coaching has absolutely been life changing for me, and so I love the fact that there's people out here like this podcast where I get to learn new things I get to use later this afternoon, and I always tell people, as coaches, we got to keep pushing ourselves. We got to challenge ourselves. I was fortunate enough to do a coaching seminar for the Special Olympics for volleyball,
Oh,
and
cool.
preparing for that was amazing. And I was like, well, what do I do? And I got to recruit kids because it was just coaches. It wasn't the athletes. It was just the kids. I've done Special Olympic volleyball practices where I brought teams in to practice with their teams here in Illinois, but being asked to teach coaches, like, how do we modify, how do we do these, and going through the different levels there are, was labor intensive. I was kind of nervous. I actually had to reach out to John Kessel. I said, hey, John, I may have bitten off more than I can chew here. What do I do? And he sent me some really useful information about how to do it. And that's what I love about John is, sitting volleyball, Special Olympics volleyball, international volleyball. John's a master of it all. He'll find you a resource for all of it. And even some of those techniques I use now because I'm breaking down skills differently than I would for high school. Because now I've got players who have never touched a ball. So teaching that to coaches about how to break down a skill and still keeping it fun and making it challenging was amazing. And I was very fortunate. I mean, they could have asked a lot of people to come and do that. I felt very, very honored that they wanted me to come in and demonstrate that. And I got to bring my kids as my demo group. And they thought that was great because now they're in front of these adults showing off what they know that they've learned from me. And I'm like, it's not because of anything I do. It's because you're nice enough to come here and help out. It really is all about the kids. It's not all the things Tony's doing. It's really, I've just been blessed to work with very generous, giving people, including my athletes, who give back to the programs that I've been a part of. And hopefully that's my legacy. Is my kids kept coming back to help me out and buy into the crazy. I think that's what it comes down to. So yeah.
That's awesome. Hey, Steve, we're already over our time limit, so I don't know if you have any last words or last questions for Tony, but we're right there.
No, the best thing about all of this is, we all learn from each other. So, and I apologize if you see me looking away at times. I'm still learning things. We got these. I'm still learning how to get rid of spam stuff that we get in the chat, which is really embarrassing, but we can't really stop it. I'm going to work on that. That's new stuff. So we're trying to make this better as we go. So it's a new skill, and it gets a little ugly at times. The other thing for you all is, Tony, I've got some things that I've gotten out of this conversation that I'm going to try to implement in my program. I've picked up things. I think back to when Daryl was with us. I used one of Daryl's suggestions a couple weeks ago that worked really well with my team. So it's really great to be able to do this. And I wish you luck with your team. And I'll be curious about the torque server as well. You can just tell BJ. He'll let me know.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for having me on. I think this is great what you're doing. This is an honor to be a guest. I love it. Feel free to bring me back to talk about whatever you need in whatever capacity. Happy to help out.
Terrific.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Tony. This was great.
Well, all right, and when I go to the outro, you can stay in the when we cut the stream, which will be 30 seconds from now or so. You can stay in the room if you want to chat afterwards. So we don't have to. It's not a Zoom meeting. When I kill it, it doesn't mean we all go away.
Okay. Awesome.